Welcome to Business Research Methods and Techniques by Wasane C., MSc. Course Chapters 1. Chapter 1. Research Introduction. 2. Chapter 2 Research Proposal and Research Process. 3. Chapter 3 Sampling and Sample Design. 4. Chapter 4 Data Collection. 5. Chapter 5 Data Analysis Methods. 6. Chapter 6 What statistical analysis should we use? Chapter 1. Research Introduction. Definitions of research. The word research is composed of two syllabuses, re and search. The dictionary defines the former as a prefix meaning again, anew or over again, and the latter as a verb meaning to examine closely and carefully, to test and try or to probe. Research is a structured inquiry that utilizes acceptable scientific methodology to solve problems and creates new knowledge that is generally applicable. Research is a process for collecting, analyzing, and interpreting information to answer questions. Research is a systematic investigation to find answers to a problem. Research is a systematic, controlled, empirical, and critical investigation of propositions about the presumed relationships about various phenomena. Research is a scientific and systematic search for pertinent information and knowledge on a specific topic. Research is a movement from the unknown to the known. Objectives of research. To gain familiarity with a phenomenon, exploratory or formulative research studies. 2. To portray accurately the characteristics of a particular individual, situation, or a group, descriptive research studies. 3. To determine the frequency with which something occurs, diagnostic research studies. 4. To test a hypothesis of a causal relationship between variables, hypothesis testing research studies. Motivation in research. What makes people to undertake research? 1. Desire to get a research degree along with its consequential benefits. 2. Desire to face the challenge in solving the unsolved problems. 3. Desire to get intellectual joy of doing some creative work. 4. Desire to serve the society. 5. Desire to get respectability. Reasons to conduct research. Students need to know research methods for two basic reasons. To write an assignment of appropriate standard academic role, methodology-oriented. To carry out research to answer vital questions for the business you are in, management role, finding-oriented. Research methods versus research methodology. Research methods refer to all those methods, techniques that are used for conduction of research. Research methods can be put into the following three groups. 1. Methods which are concerned with the collection of data. 2. Statistical techniques which are used for establishing relationships between the data. 3. Methods which are used to evaluate the accuracy of the results obtained. Research methodology. Research methodology is a way to systematically solve the research problem. A science of studying how research is done scientifically. The strategy one chooses to answer research questions. It is the various steps that are generally adopted by a researcher in studying his research problem. Research method is a part of research methodology. Business research is not a single pure academic discipline like chemistry, multidisciplinary. This is evident from the fact that the term business is an umbrella for many different things and involves a number of different academic disciplines such as mathematics, psychology, economics, politics, history. What might be special about business research? Business researches are conducted at different levels. Prediction, as in the case of regression analysis and trend analysis. Fact-finding, what happened, study on frequency and characteristics, relation, correlation studies. Impact analysis, correlation, role analysis. Qualities of good research. 1. Systematic, reject the use of guessing and intuition, but does not rule out creative thinking. 2. Controlled, variables are identified and controlled, wherever possible. 3. Logical, guided by rules of logical reasoning and logical process of induction and deduction. 4. Empirical, provides a basis for external validity to results, validation. 5. Replicable, verified by replicating the study. 6. Self-correcting, built-in mechanism and open to public scrutiny by fellow professionals. 1.9. Types of research. 1. Descriptive, survey, ex post facto, surveys and fact-finding inquiries. State of affairs as it exists. No control over variables. Try to discover causes, i.e., ex post facto. 2. Applied. Finding a solution for an immediate problem and not rigorous, flexible in application of the conditions. Analytical. Uses facts or information already available and analyzed to make a critical evaluation. Fundamental, basic or pure, concerned with generalizations and formulation of theory. Knowledge for knowledge's sake, i.e., pure or basic research. Quantitative. Measured and expressed in terms of quantity. Expression of a property or quantity in numerical terms. Quantitative research helps. I. Precise measurement. E. Knowing trends or changes over time. E. Comparing trends or individual libraries, units. 4. Conceptual. Related to some abstract idea or theory, for thinkers and philosophers, relies on literature. Right column. Qualitative. Involves quality or kind. Helps in having insight into problems or cases. Empirical. Relies on experience or observation alone, i.e., data-based research. Capable of being verified by observation or experiment. Experimenter has control over variables. 5. Other types. I. One-time, cross-sectional versus longitudinal, developmental and trend or prediction studies, the time domain. E. Field setting versus lab, simulation research. E. Clinical versus diagnostic studies. IV. Exploratory versus formulated, the degree of formulation of the problem, studies. Versus historical studies, greater part of it is quantitative. V. Content analysis is one such quantitative method, a multi-purpose method developed specifically for investigating a broad spectrum of problems in which the contents of communication serve as a basis of inference. Example: word usage rates, word counts, etc. V. Correlational research. V. Conclusion-oriented or decision-oriented research. 1.10. What kind of bus problems need a research study? Business research involve both theoretical or concept and purely practical questions. For example, practical: how does the product range compare in terms of contribution to profit? Which method of training has produced more output, coaching or a group training course? Example: theoretical: what are the most effective ways of introducing a new employee to the organization? When choosing an area of research, we start either deductive or inductive. From broad area of management like marketing management, operations management, financial management, human resources management, OR. From a very practical questions such as, how does the product range compare in terms of contribution to profit? Modes of knowledge. Gibson et al., 1994, provided two modes of knowledge that is created through business research. Mode 1 knowledge is a knowledge created by an academics for an academic purpose to further and add to what is known. It has to do with basic research, e.g. the concept of economies of scale. Mode 2 knowledge is practical applied knowledge and comes from collaborating with practitioners or policymakers. Mode 3 knowledge, as suggested by Huff and Huff, 2001, is a knowledge that is neither produced specifically for academic purpose nor for direct application to practical need, but for understanding the bigger picture in relation to society's survival and the common good. Issue we need to understand in research method. Research is messy activity. Regarding the logical progression in research. Formulating the research topic and critically reviewing relevant literature. When should they be done? The researcher affects the result of research. Basically, research has to be objective, but there is a need to recognize the fact that there is always human element in research so long as we are not conducting the research using machines. 1.13. How does literature relate to research? Any research study, inductive or deductive, undertaken for academic purpose always require a review of relevant literature. The review must be critical and related, but not just a description of what others said. Anyone can ask a few people to fill in a questionnaire, but not everyone can make sense of the answers. What kind of literature should we search for? Primary literature sources are least accessible: company literature, unpublished research, private correspondence, conference proceedings. Secondary literature sources are much more easily accessible. Include published books and articles in journals, news media, published business, government and international body publications. For academic research, peer-reviewed journals are considered more reliable sources of literature as the materials are monitored by experts in the field. Tertiary literature sources. Gateways to secondary sources. They include encyclopedias, dictionaries, citations, indexes, catalogs, and web-based portals, journals' contents, databases. Basically, literatures can be theories, concepts, principles, and empirical findings. That concludes Chapter 1 on the introduction. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. In our next lesson, we will move on to Chapter 2, which covers the research proposal and the research process. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who might